So, hello everybody. Welcome to our complex trauma interviews. Um, Today I'm interviewing Julie Duguid, who has recently joined us. I don't. Is there anything would like to tell us about yourself, please, and how you got involved with working with complex trauma?
So I think that even that itself is a complex answer. So for me, I think that I got involved with complex trauma because I was involved in my own complex trauma healing.
Yeah, I think most therapists who do this have
Yeah,
something there in their background.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think
Mhm.
for me, I mean, I've been doing therapeutic work for a while, and then I took a bit of a break, and then I've come back. And as I was working on the website, you have to write your about me page. And I'm like, this is so difficult to actually sit and write this. And when I was doing that, I had that deeper level of understanding that actually now with all of this understanding of complex, my parents had complex PTSD.
Yeah, I think that's why we get it.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what I'd written in my bio. It's like, I think
yeah.
I have, what they have, they've passed on to me because that's all they had, and I think of their early years were, living in London would be the equivalent to people in the Ukraine now,
Well,
that
yes, there are the wars.
exactly,
Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. And I think about my poor grandmothers, what they were trying to
Hmm.
live with and work with, and I was like, there, there was no choice. My grandparents and my parents had no choice about the trauma that they were going through,
No.
and the whole community went through it too. And so,
Hmm.
therefore, I think to self, there was no choice that I was this was going to come my way. And
Hmm.
now being at this point, looking back, I think, and I am appreciative and grateful that I have the opportunity to heal when they didn't. Their environment didn't have
Yes.
enough opportunities, didn't have this enough sense of safety, didn't have this knowledge and things available. And so ultimately, that's why I'm in the work, is because I was choiceless. I needed to heal what was there because it was so confusing. But I remember, being, because you don't know when you're young. And I remember feeling that I was broken and wrong.
Yeah, no, you think you're different from everybody else.
You think you're
Yeah.
different, and if you could just fix yourself, if you could just figure
Yeah.
out what's wrong with you and fix yourself, then you'd be more liked, and all these things would stop happening to you. And then you realise that, well, I don't think you realise when you're young.
Oh, no. You
No, you
think it's
don't.
normal what's
You
happening to
do.
you.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the key. I think to sad. I look back now, and I think that's the sadness. I think there was a lot of love. Unfortunately, there's a lot of unpredictability, and there's a
Mm.
lot of stress, a lot of difficulties in the community, which brought into the home. So there was a lot of things that were, again, it was complex. But
Mm.
I often work with clients, and I say to them, I've got like two ways of helping them. And I remember one saying, it's a bit like a fly when it's tipped upside down and it's on its wings and its feet are in the air. And
Yes.
it might think its wings are broken because it keeps trying to flap them and it's not doing
Yes.
anything.
Yeah.
And so it thinks, oh, these wings are broken, I'm broken. And it's like, no, you're just upside down. You're just
Yeah.
you're upside down. And
Yeah.
the other way I do is a bit like when I'm with the glasses. I say, like, if your glasses get lots of scratches and smudges and dirt on them, and that's the only way you've ever known them, you keep wearing them thinking that's the way it's supposed to be. And then
Hmm.
someone comes along one day and gives them a good clean up, puts them the right prescription for you. There's no matter, puts them back on. You're like, oh my God, is that what the
Yes.
world looks like?
There's all that going on there, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
And you can think, I think for me, when I first came into this work, I thought that was my job, is to clean everybody's glasses for them.
Well, that's yes. And
But
that's something we have
actually,
to look at as well.
yeah, but
Yeah,
actually, I realised that it can be so scary. Someone takes your glasses off and puts another set on. You're like, hang on, this is really unfamiliar. This is quite scary. So
yeah.
sometimes there's you need to do it gently, and sometimes you need to stay
Hmm.
with them, accompany them with the strangeness of it.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah,
yeah, quite often people don't want to take that next step to being well because it's so unfamiliar and
absolutely, absolutely.
frightening. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think that's the key for me. There were many moments where I could have started my healing journey, and I didn't, and I ended
Mm.
up more. I got more additional wounds rather than moving to,
Yes.
with the other direction. But you don't know in those moments. You don't know that's what's going to happen. And for me, I had a car accident in my mid-30s, and we were it was in a new location. We were going to be moving again,
Hmm.
and I couldn't do any of the distractions there, and I had this time, and in that process of waiting for the emergency services to come and help me, I had this realization, all this running away, new jobs, new people, new relationships, all just keep looking outside of myself, that actually all I was trying to run away from was what was inside.
Gosh, and it took a car crash to,
And it took
wow, how
because
strange. Yes.
it took that moment, because I'd had a real lowest ebb a couple of months before, and this was
Oh,
got the lowest ebb, and I was like, right, I was going to bounce out, do it differently all again.
hmm.
And there was this realization of like, okay, this car accident, what you were dreaming about 4 months ago, and now,
Hmm.
and it was like this, I I want to know how the house turns out, and I want to know how this turns out. So I had this, I want to be here, but there
Yeah.
was this voice that says, you do know wherever you go, you take us with you. You do know wherever you
Yes.
go, you take all these wounds, all
Hmm.
this past, all this, and I didn't realize that my inner world was a replica of my young outer world,
Yeah. But
which
you
was
can keep
perfect
changing
when I was
places.
then.
Yeah. But wherever you go, don't run away from it. It's still there with you.
It still
But it
comes
takes
along
such
with you.
a lot of courage
Yes.
to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was the key.
Mhm.
That was the starting point for me, was to just, I knew I needed to change and update, but realizing that was one thing. But
Mhm.
actually
Yeah.
then knowing what to do about it and where to go. And so
Yeah.
I went down the NHS route, and the long waiting list, the medication didn't agree with me at all. I found that very
Mm.
difficult. And then I got with my first counsellor, and she found me very difficult, because there
Yeah.
can often be,
It's
so much.
ordinary counselling doesn't work, does it?
No, there's so much workload and things. So I was put back on the list again for the next person that might be able to manage me.
Yeah.
And I went to self-study, so books became my friend and my savior, and I
Yeah.
started
So you just read
learning.
your way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think eventually I got enough money to start
Hmm.
studying. My friend was studying, and she said, you would love this. And
Yes.
and I literally went into it to become my own therapist.
I
I
think a
didn't
lot of
have
us
any
do.
intention to doing this as a career, and I kept trying to
Yeah.
stay away from this as my career, and it kept coming back to being my career. And
Yeah.
now I literally, I do. I find it so rewarding, but it's been a very complex, winding journey to here.
Yeah. So, what sort of methods and ways of working have you worked with during your training?
So if you look at all the buzzwords and the modalities, I've done CBT,
Yes.
I've done transactional analysis, I dabbled with psychodynamic, and that did not sit well with me at all.
No.
I when my After the CBT and the transaction analysis study, and I found human givens, which I found
Yes.
really, really foundational. I really enjoyed the the school of thought that they had, that it was
Hmm.
focused on what it is to be human, it was focused on your needs, and it was focused on the natural resources we were given,
Hmm.
but have I developed them well? Am I using them well? Am I misusing them? Am I overusing them, underusing them? It just gave me lots of pieces of the puzzle and a foundation. And
Yeah.
and then from there, I had lots of other things, and I still really hadn't clocked the complexity. And
No,
no, so
no.
I took a break when I realized I probably was too much of my own stuff was coming up. So I took a break. And that's
Oh,
when I
something you have
discovered,
to be careful
yeah,
with. Yeah.
somatic experiencing and Peter Levine and
Right,
attachment
the
and Bruce
body.
Perry and
Yes.
the body. And then
Yeah.
I've recently graduated and assisted the next cohort of people from the Sarah Payton's work of resonant language, resonant healing. And
Hmm.
that's been, some of those have been the final pieces of the puzzle. And,
Yes.
and
It's helped to put you back
yeah,
together
and
again.
so
Yeah.
human givens was really good on theory and some practices, but with Sarah's work, that was the one that we're, come on,
Yes.
find your own self and do your own work. And
Yes.
so sometimes when I'm with clients, I can really feel where they are in the journey, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I know that piece says, let's go slow. Let's go slow.
Well, it does help if you've been there yourself.
It does.
Yes. Yeah. So, so what do you enjoy about doing therapy with people?
Um, so I think for me, the pieces that jump out on me are, like I said, when I find someone who's been through what I've been through,
Yes.
and I'm catching them earlier in the journey than anyone ever caught me.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yeah.
I find that quite rewarding. When I work with parents and
Uh-huh.
I'm helping, it's like the younger me often wishes that someone could have helped my parents,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it
Hmm.
and then if helping them, it may not have ended up so bad for me. And so sometimes I find that enjoyable when I'm working with someone. I'm thinking there's a child on the end of this that's going to really get the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's that reduction of harm for me outwards that I
Yes. Sort
enjoy.
of getting in there early and sorting things out before
Yeah,
things come to all sorts of crises.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you think of a client you have that really you really feel proud of that the work that's gone on there.
I think for me is there's so many, and I get a bit caught up in the confidentiality, but I mean,
Yes, you have to be careful.
exactly. And I think there's a lovely young man that I met a couple of weeks ago, and so he's very early in the journey,
Mhm.
and in his 20s, no, not much self-esteem, not much self-confidence, and and he said those exact words, uh, there's something wrong with me.
Yes,
And
yeah,
and I like to, when I'm giving people sort of education about trauma and complexity and things, I like to find something they already know. And he likes to fix computers.
yes,
And so we had this lovely, I've got some basic understanding of computers, but a lot of understanding about the body. So he was telling me his information about the computers, and I was saying, well,
yeah,
that's similar to this piece in the body. And between us,
yes.
I helped him understand that he needs to look after his hardware and be able to boot it up correctly and in the right order.
Cool,
And then
yeah,
he needs to update his software. And then he got to the end and he went, so basically, he said, this has been really good. He said, I'm not broken. I can be fixed. And I was like, absolutely.
yes,
I
just
was
need an
like,
update.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, I said the key to now, I said, it's like now that we understand the basics, I said there's a variety of ways that we can do this. The same way as
Yeah.
when you're with a computer, there's not the same way. I said, because you don't
Mm,
know what's broken in each different computer. I said there's a variety of ways to do this. I said, but as long as you understand the fundamentals of what we're trying to achieve here, and we were talking about the fact that, I said there's some muscles you've not really flexed much and you don't know they're
yes.
there. I said, and you keep thinking they're not working. And so actually they're just a bit floppy. And once we get
Yes.
fired up and going, they'll be working really well for you. So for me, that's what I enjoy, is that if the earlier you can get in the session and that someone gets some hope, doesn't matter how long the
Yeah.
journey is going to be, but they're realizing actually they're not broken at all. They just haven't
No.
had this type of understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, and just to let them know that what's happened is normal, you know.
Yes.
Well, what, the way they are is normal
Yeah,
because of what's happened to them. So,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
and, and they are they're not different from everybody else.
No, no.
And
Some things
congratulations on,
about them are very, very similar, and some
yeah,
things about them are different and unique, and moving people away from that right or wrong. So
yes,
you're not right
yes,
and you're not
no
wrong. You're
rights or wrong.
different,
Mm.
but not necessarily right or wrong.
And
Yeah.
finding that metaphor is brilliant. Yeah, I
It
like
was. It
that.
was really good fun. I'm looking forward to spending more time with him on his journey.
Do you think it's possible to heal from complex trauma?
Um, I think this is an interesting question for me. And when I sit and think about it, I often think about it as I try to make the comparison again to physical injury.
Yes.
So I think when you come across a physical injury, depends on the extent of the damage, depends
Hmm.
on the prognosis of the healing.
Yes. Yes.
So for me, it's like nowadays we can do amazing things with bodies, even if we lose parts of the bodies, they've got some
Yes.
amazing things that they can do to get movement and functioning back.
Yes.
But I think even that names the complexity. So I'll often I think about the team, the community, and the body, and all the processes that are involved in it. So I often say, if you can imagine someone's shattered a leg bone,
Yes.
where that happens, they will need to be transported from where that happens to a place that can look after them and knows what they're doing. And there'll be a whole
Yes.
team of services that will move them from one place to the other.
Yes.
Then when they arrive, there'll be a whole team and environment, including if there's any surgery, if there's ward time, if there's outpatient time, if there's rehabilitation time. And then that's the external and the environment and the expertise. But
Yeah.
ultimately, all they're doing is trying to get the bone back into some sort of way that it can knit itself
Hmm.
together. And then you have to get out the bleeding way and let the body do what the body needs to do.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but
Yes.
in the meantime, that person needs to not put any pressure on it, needs it to be able to rest. So then they need support for however long that takes. And then whoever's
Yes.
doing that and taking on their stuff that they were doing needs support for that. So to me, that's any pieces of those that aren't in place impedes healing.
Yes. So it's not just us. It needs have to be people around them as well
Yeah,
who help.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that to me is why it's complex. So it's not a can you heal, can't you heal? It's the body is always trying to heal. And are we
Yes. We have a
supporting it, or
natural.
are we getting in
Yeah.
its way?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And we can get in the way, can't we? We can
Yes,
get
we can
habits
very
and
much get in the way. I've got in my own way far too many times.
yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of doing. Getting out of the way you've always done it is
Yeah,
it
getting
takes a
out.
lot
I
of
mean,
doing.
yeah, we all call it patterns. Getting out of your old patterns and allowing
Yes,
yourself permission to start getting into new patterns, even though it might be scary or unknown.
yeah,
That's sometimes what a lot of the work is actually is clearing out
yes,
the way and allowing the body to do what it can naturally do. It's always
yeah,
trying to heal.
yeah, yeah. Yes, I find the most difficult part because I'm a sort of I like doing the therapy, actually working on the trauma,
Yeah, the
whereas there's a
processing
lot of
piece.
work has to go on beforehand. A lot of work, which I found only found out in the last few years while working with Dimitri at the
Yeah.
Complex Trauma Institute. Um, So yeah, it's getting calming people down when they've got triggered, or how to keep them sitting there listening to you, uh, and things like that. Have you got any ideas or things that you do to help people if they get triggered?
Well, I think that's the resonant work that I've been doing is
Yeah,
is using understanding the body, understanding the nervous system, and
yes,
understanding how you can connect with it and
yeah,
understanding the
yeah,
need. So it's again, so individuals are unique. So often it's hard to sort of like say what I do because it's so unique to when I'm in that situation and
yeah.
with
It
that
depends who
person.
it is.
It
Mhm.
depends who it is, what the activation is. So for me, sometimes, are they having a flashback? Are they in
Yes,
something and reenacting something?
so they're not in your
Or
room at all.
or they gone? So I'm often thinking, because
Yes,
I mean Dimitri uses is different things, but I often use, if they've gone up the thermometer, are they getting too
yes,
hot and not too active, or have they come
yes,
down the thermometer and gone into too cold? And so
yes.
I'm always working with what do they need? Do they need to have a bit
Mhm.
more? Do they need? Most of the time, I'm looking at accompaniment. How can I accompany their body so that their
Yes.
body knows they're not alone?
Right.
So
Yes.
that their
Yes.
body knows there's another body, and whatever their body perceives, wherever it's gone in time, or
Yes.
whatever it perceives as a danger, that there's a
Hmm.
body here that is giving them another piece of information that actually they're safe. They're not where they
Yes.
think they are. And so what I like about the resonance is it, I'm with them wherever they are.
Hmm.
I'm looking whatever their needs are. So sometimes, because a lot of people, when they do dissociation, you're trying to ground them back in the present. But one of
Yes.
the things I'll do if someone, I'll say, you seem to, I wonder if a part of you's gone off somewhere. And they're like, and I go, and I wonder if you'd like me to just, I wonder if I can just accompany wherever you've gone. Just
Yeah.
maybe a minute or
Yeah.
two. Maybe it feels like you've gone off in space or somewhere
Hmm.
else. And I just wonder what it's like if I'd accompany you. And, and I wonder if if you need to know that there's someone keeping an eye on you and that you need to say. So that's how I'll work, depending on where they're at. I will work with whether they want to be grounded, whether they want just some
Right.
accompaniment, and
Yeah.
I'm very much guided by their body, because sometimes
Yes.
I've said something and they're processing. So I'll just be, would you like just a
Yes.
minute to just be and yeah. So there's, again, when other people call triggers, I call the body is activating. Something's becoming active.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and either there, and there's often, for me, there's a difference between reenactment and release. Have I actually enabled them to be releasing something that's been suppressed and don't get in its way? Or
That's
have
the
they gone into a
difficulty.
scary reenactment and therefore
Yes.
do they need accompaniment to? So again,
Yes.
it's this understanding of what's happening for them in that moment
Yeah.
guides me. Well, what am I going to do with
Hmm.
how am I
Yeah.
accompanying them? What therapeutic support can I offer in this moment?
Yeah. And quite often your intuition takes over, doesn't it? And
That's
You
that's
somehow
that's
know
what all
what
the
to do.
learning's about, I hope, Celia.
Oh yeah, you've got to
It's
do all
about
the work.
intuition is a whole toolbox
Learning to play the
learning.
piano.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I mean, there's certain things that I do. Um, so there's breath work I might do, a sort of like a go
yes.
back into the body and
Calming
do
down
breath
breath.
work.
Yeah,
There's I might sort of do, there's something I do that I get my husband to do with me when I have mine, because I've had
yes.
many flashbacks in the past. And
Mm,
and I'll get him to do something I call a needs murmur.
yes.
And so he's now, it's taken some communication between us to him to understand the signs that
Hmm.
I'm off somewhere, or
Yeah,
for me to be able to say to him, like sometimes I say to him, I think I've gone somewhere in time. I'm losing where I am.
yes. Yes.
And because most of it I was scared and alone. That's what we've known
Mm,
from me doing my own work. Most of the time I'm
yeah.
scared somewhere and I'm alone somewhere. So he'll
Yeah.
just come up and he'll hug me and he'll just rub my
Oh,
arm,
lovely.
and he'll
Yeah.
go to, and he'll very quietly say into my ear, "You're with me, you're
Yes.
safe,
Yes.
you're with me."
Mm,
And you know, and it's we're in our garden, it's 2025,
mm,
with me, you know, wherever you are, you can bring wherever you are, whoever, whatever part of you are with, you can bring them back, they can come and be with us, you know, you're here
yes.
and you're safe. So
Yes.
that's one of the things that I get him to do for me, so that again, he's not panicking. He's not
No.
telling me to do anything. He's just letting my body do what it needs to do, and letting my body know that there's someone there that's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's lovely. Yeah. Yeah. And we're supposed to, we have to work with clients and their environment.
Yeah.
And have you got any thoughts about how we can make the environment more conducive to helping them to heal?
Um, what do you mean? Do you mean like in their home, in a
Yeah,
session?
well, to make them safe and supportive.
And I think that's the piece that we're naming. In a lot of the education I do is sort of like, what are the basic things our body needs? What does our body
Yes,
need inside? What does it need outside?
yes,
And and bringing that understanding that the need doesn't change, but the way we meet it can change constantly, can update and
yes,
change constantly. And
yeah,
so, you know, sometimes people change. I had one client, and we realized that there wasn't a much touch in her life. There wasn't much sense of that
no,
warmth and comfort. And in the next session, she had this big, like, torso sized cuddly bear, like a, you know,
cuddly bear, yeah,
yeah,
lovely,
cuddly bear,
great
soft,
big cuddly
furry.
bear, yeah,
Yeah. And so she was like, having that in her environment, she was like, sometimes I just need a hug. She said, and you know, I just
yes,
go and hug that. And for some people, it's about, sometimes it's putting things in their environment, sometimes it's taking things out. So sometimes
yes,
taking the phone out of the bedroom at night.
it's a good idea.
You
Yes,
know,
yeah,
sometimes it's, for me, I had some neighbors that had a something in that made a lot of noise in there.
mhm,
It was that bravery to ask if it could be moved somewhere else because it was right outside my window. The answer was
yeah,
no. So then it was
right,
like, okay, so what can I do to put something between that noise? And so I
yes,
used to, you know, that's when they moved eventually and took it with them. But I
good,
would put headphones on and have a different type of noise. It was like, okay, let's change the noise,
yes,
because
yeah,
my body was telling me that noise does something for us. And so,
mm,
okay, let's put this on because that noise does something different.
yeah, and you can get alerted and hyper ready to hear this noise as well, something like that, can't you? Can
It
be
was, yeah.
really hard to deal with. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, Oh,
again, it's
yeah,
that uniqueness of at least giving them an understanding that your environment, your body does respond to your environment. So experiment with what can you do in your environment that allows your body
yes.
to feel calmer. What's activating it? Can you change it? What's missing from it? What can you bring in? It's both. What
Mm,
can you bring in and what can you take out?
yes, and not just sit there and be a victim.
No.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your work and what you particularly enjoy about it, or what you find difficult?
Um, I think there's certain, I think the pieces that I find really difficult is is when people are really under-resourced
Yes. Yeah.
because they're, you know, there isn't people in the community that understand them. Or there
On
are,
the community where they are. Yes.
yeah, community where there
Yeah.
are, they don't
Yeah.
feel they're that when we get them to an understanding of what the issue is, but then when they try to look for solutions, there is just blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
find really sad and difficult. I can still sit with a client because that's a reality, and I know that it's
Mm.
temporary. It's not always that way. Something's always changing, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
something can come along and it can change.
Mhm.
But in those moments where the person themselves is doing their absolute best and they're just there isn't what they need is not in the environment. It's not easy for them
Yeah.
to get. There's another, there's 20 hurdles before they can get to what they need because they don't drive, or there's
Mhm.
this or there's that. And
Yeah.
and it's like, will they be able to sustain their energy? Will they get enough things coming in that boost them and keep them going? So that's what I find difficult, because sometimes you do lose clients in this work, and
What you
that's
do,
hard.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it
yes.
is.
Yes.
It's hard. It really is hard. That's
Yeah.
when I find hard, because I don't know about you, because if I'm doing my job well, I love them. So it hurts when
Yes.
you lose them.
It does. It does, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes they go and you don't know, well, is it something I've done? What's happened? Where are they? Well, yes,
Mm.
what's going on? And yeah, feeling somehow you're responsible for it. I think we have to remember that we're not responsible for our clients, and there's lots of other people out there who can
Yeah.
help them as well.
I
Yeah.
like to I like to use the word contribute rather than responsible. I like to think I can
Absolutely,
contribute to
yes.
them, but I'm not responsible
Yes,
for them. And I can
yes,
contribute in helpful ways. I try to
yes.
contribute in helpful ways, but I'm human, so I might do something that's
Mhm.
not as helpful as it needs to be. And that's my own learning point. But I think to myself, yeah, that's what I like when Dimitri says we're a community, we're all contributing in our own way.
Yes,
And
yeah,
sometimes my contribution isn't enough compared to what other people are
absolutely.
contributing. If they're getting too much unhelpful stuff coming in, my little piece of helpful doesn't balance out the
No,
unhelpful.
no, no, you can't, yeah, you can't fix everybody, can you?
No.
It's
No.
really difficult. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's been a delight talking to you, Julie. Yeah, I think, thank you very much. I've learned a lot from you while we've been talking. So,
Thank you.
yeah, it's been great. Yeah. So, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
Um,
Celia.
yeah, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Hi. Hopefully you've been enjoying the interview between Celia and I. And there was a couple of questions that Celia and I didn't get to, but that were really important for me, that I wanted to add to the end of the interview. So I hope you will allow me to indulge in sharing those to you. So something that was important to me was for people to know how I define trauma. And there's a lot of discussion out there, whether it's a big T trauma or a little T trauma. And for me, I really think the body decides what is trauma. And it's what the body is holding on to, what the body hasn't have been able to have accompanied, what is still outstanding, what activates our flashbacks and our reenactments, still needs to be released. And so as an adult, we may think falling off your bike is just minor. But if you're 4 years old and you fall off your bike and your parents start arguing about it, that could be trauma to that child. So our body gets to decide what it's holding on to and what it needs to release. We had a question about, does trauma just affect individuals? Does it affect relationships and communities? And I think this is really important, that we are built to be in community as human beings. So it isn't just the individual. We can literally affect each other and influence each other. So if one of us has trauma, like I said earlier in the interview, my parents had it and they hadn't recovered from theirs. And so it was coming to me as a child. And I think there would be people in the community that they would seem confusing to me, because maybe they were having a reenactment or a flashback in that moment. So I don't think that we can just say, oh, it's that person's issue. If there's trauma in our community, then it's all of our issues. And that leads me to the last question, which is, how do we help each other? And for me, I think really is get as much education on understanding our needs, understanding how we connect with each other, and understanding how the body does store and heal from trauma. When I'm working and doing working with clients or on any of my training courses, I like to use the acronym CARE. So C stands for consented, compassionate curiosity. We want to have curiosity for each other. And A stands for attuned accompaniment, which means that we're attuning into what's happening to someone. We're not making our own judgments. We're not assuming what's happening. We're actually asking questions and making guesses. And that leads us to the R, which is the resonant relational regulation. Sometimes I read in a lot of books, and when I did my first training, I used to say to someone, oh, that must have been terrible for you. And actually, that's a statement. I don't know that. That's my assumption. Whereas if I just turn that into a question, was that terrible for you? That allows the other person to know, to actually ask themselves that question and say, actually, yeah, it was. And now I can start relating to that. Is it like this, and this? Is it like da 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 da? Is it that? And they can then answer that question and what I call course correct me. Oh, it's not quite like that. It's more like this. And now I'm really starting to resonate with this person and understand what their experience was like. And sometimes someone actually wanting to know you about your experience, not the story, not what happened, not when it happened and who was there, but actually what the experience of your body was like. That in itself can be really regulating and really healing. And then once the body is in that process of healing, the E stands for encouraging exploration and experimentation of meeting new needs. A lot of the time, trauma is about change. A lot of time, there's some version of loss. And I actually run a workshop on creating space for loss, because there's not enough. Sometimes we don't make enough space to acknowledge the losses in our life. And we may have preferences of how we meet a need. We may have a strategy that we like, and then that's not available anymore. And we have to start again, and we have to find new ways. And we need encouragement for that, because our body does love the familiar. Familiar is safe. So for me, the more we learn to care for ourselves and each other, and the more we can move away from blaming and shaming, the more we can create a safe environment. And like I mentioned earlier in my interview, we live inside our own bodies 24/7. There is no escaping our own mind. There is no escaping how our body feels and the experiences that it has and the communication that it's making to us. So the safer our environment internally is, the less suffering and the less stress our body goes through. And the safer our environment that we live in is, the less suffering and less stress that we go through. And that is what creates a healing environment. I also hope that you would be encouraged to check out what the Complex Trauma Institute website has to offer. There are lots of free resources there. There are also paid courses, and they have their yearly conference in August, the end of August. And so I encourage you for that. I myself also have a website, akindofmind.com, which is what I'm hoping to get across is that I hope everybody can create their own kind of mind, and then a kind of mind for your community. And on there you'll find some resources and information about if you want to work with me, whether that be in one-to-one or some of the courses that are self-paced or joining in with groups. Thank you for listening to this extra piece. I appreciate it. Thank you.